On a world ruled by storms, beasts, and stone, humans believed that nature was their only enemy. But one evening, a wound of light opened in their sky, bringing something far beyond storms and beasts.
To him it was neither storm nor spirit, but something he had no word for.
It was not a creature of flesh and bone, but a leviathan of metal and light, drifting above their world. Even the ancient beasts, rulers of forest and sky, felt the weight of the stranger above them.
For a moment, the sky itself seemed to belong to them. They had faced storms, hunger, and fangs, but never a fear that fell from the heavens. In that moment, the path of their history bent toward something entirely new.
Even as his body trembled, his hand refused to let go of the only weapon he understood.
And so, a small tribe of hunters stood before a titan of the sky, unaware that this meeting. They expected monsters of claw and tooth, but what stepped out was stranger than any beast. They walked with the silence of ghosts, yet carried the weight of distant suns. Between stone and starlight they stood, a handful of hunters and visitors carved from distant night. On that bare stone, between jungle and stars, two worlds measured each other in silence.
Its gaze held no hunger, no hatred, only a cold curiosity, measuring the fragile creatures before it. For the first time, the hunter who had faced fang and storm felt the touch of something that feared neither. With a gesture, it painted storms and monsters in the air, showing them the dangers of their own world as clearly as tracks in the mud.
They saw, in light and smoke, the fury of their own world laid bare, and the monsters that stalked it beyond their spear's reach.
Instinct spoke louder than wonder, and the first thing they offered the visitors was not trust, but fear. But the blow never landed. Their rage shattered not upon flesh, but upon an invisible wall of light.
Between terror and courage, he chose a fragile for the first time.
In the space between fear and faith, a simple gesture became the first bridge between their worlds.
To a father and mother of stone and spear, the unknown touching their child was more terrifying than any beast.
They spoke in light and shape, teaching the hunters how to turn wood and stone into something far deadlier.
With a single strike, he learned that their gift could break more than stone. From hands of ice and light, a new edge was given to the hunters of stone. From the edge of their world, they looked down on the prey they had always chased, and the predators they had always feared.
They bent his arm not with force, but with light, teaching him to let the sky itself guide his aim.
For the first time, their throw reached where their fear had never dared to follow.
With their new edge, they could bring down giants, but the weight that fell upon their hearts was heavier than any stone.
That night, under a sky of stone stars and metal light, by morning, the valley remembered only the weight of the fallen and the silence after the chase. He woke to find the world unchanged, but the weight in his hand was no longer the same. Its tracks told a story of hunger and thunder, and their new weapons promised an answer.
Together, they slipped into the jungle, old hunters and new ghosts, tracking something that had never been hunted this way before.
The hunt became a pattern of light and lines, where every tree and stone was counted long before the first step was taken. They had asked for power, but it could not protect them from every misstep. Power could sharpen their spears, but it could not smooth the jagged edges between father and son.
Their old skills did not vanish in the light of new power. They fused, becoming something stronger and more. They had learned to hunt with the power of the sky. But the sky itself was not done with them. The sky broke open at last, and the world itself rose up to answer their new hunger. The storm did not frighten the old king of this valley. It only made him louder.
On the edge of the storm's mouth, hunters and strangers stood together, but not all of them feared the same thing.
Their first blow landed harder than any they had ever thrown, and the valley itself shuddered in answer.
Every blow they landed echoed back through the forest, until it was no longer clear where the hunt ended and the storm began.
When their new weapons were not enough, the visitors laid their hands bare, and the land paid the price instead. In the glow of their protector's power, he finally saw the shadow it cast. They had won the hunt, but the valley would remember the way they had done it. She had hunted store. In the mud between them lay more than wood and stone. It was the line that would decide. When the roaring stopped, they had to walk toward what they had made and decide what it meant. To an old hunter, even a fallen king of teeth and thunder deserved a final, silent greeting. In their light, the hunters saw not just what they could kill. No language bound them, but both understood that some gifts could not be taken back. For a heartbeat, he stood in the sky itself, and knew that his hunter's valley was only a single shadow on a much larger world. They walked away from the beast, but not from what they had learned to do to their world. Below them waited children, elders, and empty bellies, and a future that would not forget what they had brought back. They had nothing to trade but their fear and their hunger, and the visitors left richer than they arrived. They watched the sky swallow their new gods, and felt the weight of what those gods had left behind. Long after the lights in the sky were gone, one truth remained. The hunters were not the same, and neither was their world. Their bellies were full, their fires bright, and at the center of it all, a shard of the sky waited for its next command. The first to reach for that power were not the elders, nor the warriors, but the ones who did not remember a world without it. She had washed skins and wounds in that river all her life, but never before had she tried to rinse. For the first time, the fiercest hunter in the valley feared not what stalked the dark, but what lay across his own knees. Even after the ship was gone, their eyes found him in the dark, through the very weapon he refused to put down. He tried to wrap new thunder in old rules, but the boy's eyes kept drifting toward the weapon that answered to no tradition. The valley had always answered their hunger, but now it was beginning to fall silent. Every time he raised the sky-forged spear, he could not shake the feeling that the ones who gave it were still hunting through him. He had seen monsters on the ground and in the sky, and in the quiet between them, the first hunter of a new age opened his eyes and did not look away. He spoke of knowing when not to hunt, of prey that must be spared, of storms best left to... They gathered to weigh a gift that had outgrown their need, and found that no hand among them was willing to let it go. She knew these trees as others knew faces, and in their stillness, she read a warning that no spear could answer. He no longer needed storms or monsters to call forth his strength. The promise of power alone was enough. From far above, they watched the pattern change, and saw that one weapon had cut deeper than claws or teeth ever could.
The beasts that once ruled her dreams were gone, and in their place rose a question with...
He tried to bury the storm in stone. But thunder does not disappear just because a hand lets go.
Some gifts are not taken. They are chosen again and again, no matter how many times they are cast away. The ones who had given them thunder returned to read the marks it left, and to decide whether their experiment should end or merely begin.
They watched a simple tool become a power that no longer served its makers.
They left as quietly as they came, taking their questions with them and leaving in the dust. With the sky empty at last, the choice of what remained fell only to them. The beasts did not vanish. They learned new paths, slipping beyond the reach of spears that suddenly flew too far.
Before the memory could fade, they chose to trap it in stone, so that those who came after would see the day the sky opened. In lines of ash and blood-red stone, they turned terror into story, and story into warning. That night, the sky story became theirs, not as memory of fear, but as a lesson wrapped in flame and shadow. The land did what it had always done. It shifted, healed, and bent around the new wound.
Soon, they would tell their children that the sky itself carried the shape of the weapon that changed them. Out where no spear flew, teeth and hooves remembered the old rules and wrote new ones in silence. Far from the valley, they folded that young world into their memory, another mark in a long trail of worlds set turning by a single touch. Long after the ship was gone, the light remained, waiting to see what kind of hunters they would become.